5 mini stroke warning signs after 60, each with a hidden price tag. Ignore one, and that cost you $250,000. One-sided weakness, vision loss, slurred speech, sudden dizziness, and a memory lapse that vanishes in 10 minutes. All 5 disappear in minutes. The bill doesn't. There's a $500 test that catches every one of them. Medicare won't cover it. And the 5th sign, the one most people laugh off, that's the one that empties a retirement account. A transient ischemic attack, a TIA, is a temporary blockage of blood flow to your brain. It lasts minutes, then it stops. No visible damage, but the narrowed artery that caused it is still there. And 1 in 5 TIA patients will have a full stroke within 90 days. That number comes from Medicare claims data covering nearly 100,000 patients. Now here's the part nobody explains. A test called a carotid ultrasound checks the arteries feeding your brain. It costs $200 to $500 out of pocket. But Medicare only covers it after symptoms appear. The federal screening guidelines recommend against testing asymptomatic adults. The system won't look for this problem until the problem has already shown up. A $500 test or a $265,000 stroke. That's the health insurance gap most seniors never see until it's too late. The figures you're about to see are national Medicare averages. Your actual out-of-pocket will vary depending on where you live. But the gap between catching this early and ignoring it doesn't. When I first ran these numbers, I thought they were wrong. I checked Medicare billing data, the American Heart Association, and the National Institutes of Health. The numbers held. Here are the 5 TIA symptoms that affect brain health after 60, and what each one costs if you wait. Sign 1. Sudden weakness on one side of your body. Face drooping, arm going limp. One leg that buckles. Always one side only. This resolves in minutes. Most people blame a pinched nerve, but one-sided weakness is one of the most recognized silent stroke symptoms. It means blood flow to your motor cortex was interrupted. Atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat, is one of the most common triggers. The cost to catch it, $300 to $800. Medicare, Part B, deductible, plus 20% coinsurance for a neurological evaluation. The cost to miss it, full stroke, permanent paralysis on one side, skilled nursing care at $217 a day in coinsurance. After a $1,736 hospital deductible, that resets every benefit period. Sign 2 costs, even less, to detect. And the symptom itself is the one people most often mistake for being tired. Sign 2. Sudden vision loss in one eye. It feels like a curtain dropping across your field of view. Then it lifts. Gone in seconds. This is called amaurosis fugax, a clot passing through the artery that feeds your eye. It's a direct marker for carotid artery disease. The same narrowing a carotid ultrasound would have caught. Detection cost, $200 to $500 for a carotid Doppler and eye evaluation. ignored cost, permanent central retinal artery occlusion, irreversible vision loss, home modifications, assistive devices, thousands in out-of-pocket medical costs that stack up fast. Both signs so far. Less than a car payment to catch. More than a house if you don't. Sign 3. The one people apologize for. You slur mid-sentence or reach for a word and it isn't there. Then you're fine. These neurological symptoms point to ischemia in the language centers of your brain. A full stroke in those areas causes permanent aphasia. The ability to speak normally, possibly gone forever. Detection, $400 to $700. Brain MRI and outpatient speech evaluation. The cost of waiting. The average first-year post-stroke Medicare cost is $44,929. Post-stroke speech therapy alone adds $1,703 on top of that. And once Medicare's therapy spending thresholds get crossed, they audit for continued progress. If progress stalls, coverage stops. You pay. 3 signs. Combined preventive care costs under $2,000 total. The bill, if you ignore all 3, we haven't hit the big number yet. Sign 4. The room spins. You lose your balance. You can't walk a straight line. It lasts seconds. Then it passes. This points to your posterior circulation, the blood vessels feeding the back of your brain. Vascular health in seniors over 60 determines whether this stays a warning or becomes permanent. A full cerebellar stroke means permanent loss of coordination. Then the cascade. Falls, hip fractures, emergency surgeries at $50,000 or more per hospitalization. And here's the Medicare cost trap most people miss. Land back in the hospital more than 60 days later, and that $1,736 Part A deductible resets. You pay it again from zero. Every single time. That's not a one-time cost. That's a recurring retirement medical cost for the rest of your life. But there is a 5th sign, and it costs more than the other 4 combined. Sign 5. You suddenly cannot form new memories. You ask the same question 3 times in 10 minutes. You don't recognize where you are. Then it clears completely. You remember everything before and after, just not during. Most people dismiss this. It came back, so it must be nothing. It's not nothing. This can signal damage to your hippocampus, the structure that builds memories. The vascular event behind it gets dismissed. And when it returns larger, the result is vascular dementia. Irreversible, cognitive decline requiring 24-hour custodial care. And this is where the senior healthcare costs become devastating. Medicare does not pay for long-term custodial nursing home care. Not one day. Without long-term care insurance, that cost $129,575 a year for a private room comes entirely out of your savings until your money is gone and you qualify for Medicaid. So I ran the full projection. $265,593. The average lifetime cost of a stroke that started as a 10-minute memory lapse. That's more than most people save for retirement. Now here is what the same timeline looks like if you catch it early. All 5 signs. Detection cost $300 to $900 per sign. A few visits, a conversation with a doctor, the clock stops the other path. Acute stroke admission, $20,396. Clot dissolving treatment, $25,630. Mechanical thrombectomy if needed, $65,260. First year of stroke recovery cost, $44,929. And long-term care, $129,575 a year. Healthcare and retirement that drains everything you've built. That's not just a hospital bill. That's medical debt that compounds for years. The price of waiting is always higher than the cost of knowing. Here is the one question to ask your doctor before any of these mini stroke warning signs become a $265,000 problem. Ask them this: given my risk factors, what is my current stroke trajectory if I change nothing? And what would a baseline vascular assessment cost me out of pocket? That question does two things. It puts a number on the table, and it opens the door to what Medicare calls a medical necessity determination. If your doctor identifies a clinical concern based on your risk profile, every diagnostic test from that point becomes medically necessary. Covered under Part B. Remember, the screening guidelines say don't test without symptoms. But this question asks your doctor to evaluate your risk factors. If that evaluation reveals a concern, testing is no longer screening, it's diagnosis. And diagnosis is covered. Stroke prevention after 60 starts with 1 conversation. If you know someone over 60 who has brushed off dizziness or weakness or a memory lapse, send them this video. This one breakdown could change their financial planning for the next decade. You watched this far. That puts you ahead of most people who will never run these numbers. The price of waiting is always higher than the cost of knowing. Comment your age and one sign from this video you've noticed but dismissed. Your story might be the one that wakes someone else up. Subscribe, because every symptom you ignore already has a dollar figure attached. And that number is never small.